Hi, I'm Paul Seal from codechair.co.uk. Welcome to my new series. This is episode 1 where I show you how to build a website with Umbraco V8. In this episode, what we'll do is we'll find out what the system requirements are to be able to start building a website in Umbraco V8, get you set up, get everything installed, and then do a bit of a hello world just to give you an introduction into Umbraco. And then in future episodes, we'll move it forward. And eventually we'll be building our own website using a theme, which is a Bootstrap theme, and it's a free theme as well. So let's get started then. So first of all, we need to know what the requirements are for Umbraco. So if you go to ourumbraco.com and then you click on the download link, you can see what the current requirements are at the time when you're going through with this tutorial. So at the moment it requires Windows 7 or greater. Or if you're on the server itself, it needs Windows Server 2012 or greater. It needs Microsoft IIS or Microsoft IIS Express. So IIS is how you host the website on your local machine, and that is also how you host it on a server as well. But you also get IIS Express. So if you've not got IIS set up and working, you should be able to use IIS Express. I'll talk to you about that as we go along. And then Microsoft SQL Express 2012 plus. So you need to have Microsoft SQL Express installed or the full SQL Server installed on your machine. And you need to have Microsoft ASP.NET 4.72. So let's just have a look. I've got some links here. So the first link is to the .NET Framework. So say if you don't have the .NET Framework installed and you want to be developing, you need to install the developer pack. So you can go to this URL here. I'll put it in the show notes. Download Visual Studio SDKs, and it's their developer pack. And you want the 4.72 if you've not already got it installed. And then you also want to make sure that you've got SQL Server Express installed. So if you've got an up-to-date machine, there's no reason why you can't install SQL Server 2017 Express Edition. Just download and install that, and you will want the SQL Server Management Studio tools as well, which is this. And whilst we're at it, one thing that people get stuck on with this is the permissions. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that when you have SQL Server installed and you've got SQL Server Management Studio open, right click on the server at the top, go to Properties, and you want to go to Security, and you need to make sure that you've got SQL Server and Windows Authentication Mode selected. And what that will do is that will mean that you can put, when we come to setting up the SQL connection later, you will actually be able to connect to it, not just using a Windows account, but just with some SQL login details. Okay, so that's the SQL Server side of things. What else do we have that we need to just make sure that we've got? You need to have Visual Studio installed. I've got Visual Studio 2017 Community Edition installed on mine. Let's just have a look at this. You want to make sure that you've updated it, and my current version is 15.9.4 of Visual Studio 2017. And as I say, it's the free Community Edition, so you don't need to pay for Visual Studio to be able to build sites with Umbraco. And you could have Visual Studio 2019 installed and you'll be fine. So that's the Visual Studio thing. So that's all the requirements. So let's get on to actually installing Umbraco and showing you how to get it all set up. First thing what we'll do is we'll just create a database for it first of all. So I'm going to create in SQL Server Management Studio, I'm going to go to the database node. I'm going to right click and choose New Database. The website I'm going to be doing is based on the Clean Blog theme from Start Bootstrap. So we're going to call this Clean Blog, and we'll just leave it at that as the name. The options, I'm just going to leave it where its compatibility level is 2017. It's fine like that. So Clean Blog. Okay, so I've left it with all its defaults, and then security, I just want to create a new login, And this is the bit where I was talking about the security side of things with SQL Server. So I want to use SQL Server authentication. So I'm going to call the user clean. Oh, first of all, I need to put that in here. So clean blog, the same as the database name for this. And then I'm just going to put a password in for this, just password 1 equals password 1 equals, just for ease. And then I want to untick enforce password policy. Then I can skip to user mapping, choose the database that I want this to be on. Tick the map box there, and then I'll just choose DB owner and then OK. And that's it. So that's set me up now with a database that I will be able to connect to. So next we need to go to Visual Studio. We need to start a new project. So File, New Project. And then we need to go to Visual C# Web, and we want to choose a .NET Framework web application. We need to choose .NET Framework 4.72, and we want to put it in a folder. Now I've got a folder set up already in source control, so I'm going to use this folder here. If you're just in your projects folder, you might want to create a directory for solution, but as I'm not going to. And I'm going to call this cleanblog.web, because this is going to be my web project within there. And then I'm going to choose OK. I want to choose an empty web project. So I don't want any defaults like MVC or anything like that. So I'm just going to use empty and then OK. So this is just going to quickly set this project up for us, an empty web project. And then when that has done that, we're going to install Umbraco using NuGet. There's a couple of ways that you can do it. So you can go to Tools. When this has finally caught up, I'll show you. You can go to Tools, Package Manager, NuGet Package Manager, Manage NuGet Packages for Solution. So you can do it this way, and you can click on Browse to go via the internet to look up. So you can search for Umbraco CMS, and it's this one here. And we're on version 8.1.4 at the moment. What I like to do is use the Package Manager console instead. So it will achieve the same thing. Install -package Umbraco CMS. And then I just make sure that that default project is set to the web one. That's one that I want to install it on. If I had a class library or anything else in the solution as well, I'd need to choose that in here of where it wants to go into. So I'm just going to hit enter on that, but you could, if you wanted to, click on this, tick the box, and then install. But I'm going to do it via the Package Manager console instead. So that will go off. It will download the NuGet package and all of the NuGet packages that it depends on to be able to install Umbraco into your solution, into that web project. So as that's doing that, we can have a look in the folder where it's going into, and we can see that it's created a web solution for us, and it's now added a packages folder. And in that packages folder at the moment, it's just got the compiler. But as you start to see messages here, it's just gathering its dependency information at the moment. But as that gets that dependency information and works out which packages it needs, it will start to put messages into here in the output, and then we'll see them all down here. They'll all start showing up in the packages. Here we go. And it will start adding all of these in here. So these are the NuGet packages that Umbraco relies on. Okay, so it's installed Umbraco. You see the ASCII art here, Umbraco, and that was what I submitted as a pull request to Umbraco to get that ASCII art changed to be more like the font. Anyway, so if we have a look in the solution bar here, we can see what this has added in, and especially if we tick on show all files, if we select that, we can actually see everything that's been installed and brought over for us. So we've got an app plugins folder, it's using the plugin called Models Builder, which is part of it. It ships with Umbraco now. We'll talk about Models Builder later. We've got a config folder, a media folder, a views, and then we've got the main one here, which is the Umbraco folder. So that gives us the back office. So what we want to do is we want to give this a build. So I always use rebuild solution. So that's in the build menu, rebuild. And then down here at the bottom, it says rebuild all succeeded. And then what we want to do is just click on the web project and then, don't select it like that. Just make sure it's highlighted and then Control F5. And now this is going to launch this web project in the browser. If we use Control F5, you can do it without using Control F5. You could just do debug, start without debugging. There you go, Control F5. Now that's going to launch the installer for Umbraco. What I usually do is just put admin@admin.com, admin@admin.com. When I say usually do, this is just for tutorials or for open source projects. If it was me and I was you over there who's following along with this, definitely put in secure your proper name. So like my name, Paul Seal, and then my email address and my password like that. This is just what I use so I can remember when I'm logging in on tutorial courses or open source things. So next thing I want to do is click on customize, because and I do want a machine key, so I click on continue for that. And then I want to tell it what database type I'm going to use for a start. So I'm going to use Microsoft SQL Server. And in order to use that, we need to use the login details that we created earlier. So if we go to SQL Server and we right click on the server part at the top there, and then we just take the name of the server for a start. And we go back to here and we paste that in there. So that's the first bit. Then we want the database name. Well, we know that that was clean blog. And we know that the login user was also called clean blog. And the password for that was password 1 equals. I'm not going to tick a use integrated and then click on continue. So that is now connected to the database, and I know it has because it's got to this page. If you have any issues with the connection, then it might be that you've put the password in wrong, you've not put the right server name in, and things like that. So you need to diagnose that separately. One thing you can do to diagnose that is if you disconnect from the SQL Server, you try and connect again, and you choose the server to connect to, but instead of choosing Windows Auth, if you choose SQL Server Authentication, and then you put in your details, so clean blog, and then password 1 equals for this, and then connect. Because those login details are correct, I will be able to log in and see this database. I won't be able to go to these other ones because I don't have. I've only been allowed to use that one, so I'll be able to see tables and everything for the clean blog. So that's just a little tip if you wanted to diagnose any connection issues. So it's asking, do you want to install a starter website? Well, no, because we're going to learn about Umbraco and how to build it ourselves. So we say no, thank you. And then it will just run through the installer for us and get it set up. So once we've installed it, we get to this screen. So you can follow this tour, and this tour will take you through getting to know Umbraco. And as a new user to Umbraco, I think it's a good idea to do that. But in this video, we're not going to follow this, and I'm going to choose don't show this tour again. So when you've installed Umbraco, you get this, you start off on the content screen, and this is the welcome dashboard that you get. And Umbraco, when you log in later down the line, you might see that this has changed. So basically, it just gets a feed from Umbraco of what to display in this bit. So what we want to do is just have a quick look around. So we've got a content section. So this is where our home page and all the pages and everything will be in there. All the pages, everything to do with that. Media, you've got a media section. Now, sometimes when you do click on another tab like that, after the first install, it does ask you to log back in. So luckily, I can remember my login details. So make sure you remember yours. So I've clicked on the media section, and then we've got settings, packages, and users, and that. So these are the main areas that you'll use. You can restrict down these areas so not everyone can see media or settings or packages and things like that. I'm not going to go through every section at the moment because I'll do that as we progress through this. What I do want to do though is, first of all, I want to just get a bit of a hello world going, because at the moment, if you went to the website, to get to the front page of the website would just go like this. If we went to this, it would say, welcome, you've installed Umbraco, but you've not done anything. I saw someone on the forum saying that they've installed Umbraco, but how do I create pages? So this is a real basic now. What we're going to do is just do something just to create a page. With Umbraco, you have things called document types. So a document type is somewhere that you store properties and like fields and values for your pages, and not always for a page. It could be like a component for a page. So that's what a document type is. So on here, I'm going to create a folder first of all called pages. So to do that, I clicked on the three dots and then did folder, and then I called it pages. And in pages, I want to create a document type without a template and call it home. And in here, I'm going to choose the icon. I'll choose the color as well. And type in home, and there is a home icon there that I'm going to use. Then I'm going to press save. So that is our very first document type. It's got no properties on it. We'll talk about properties and things like that in groups and tabs later. But for now, we have a document type, which is a home document type. And then what I want to do is go to permissions and allow as root. So this allows it to be at the very top of the content tree. Click on save for that. And allow varying by culture. So if later down the line we wanted to do different languages, then it's a good idea to tick this from the start. So yeah, we'll touch on that later on. And then let's add a property. So I don't add properties to pages themselves. I add properties to compositions, and a composition is somewhere that you can store properties, and then on the other pages or components you can pick that composition. So let's say if I had a car document type, and then I would have wheels and things like that, the wheels characteristics, so the number of wheels and the size of the wheels and everything, that would be on one composition. Then I'd have another composition about the doors, and then I can pick that, because then if I had a document type for a van, then I can still pick wheels and doors as compositions to help towards this vehicle. Anyway, so enter a folder name for this. So I'm going to call it compositions. Create. And then I just want to do new document type without a template. And I'll just call this basic content controls. And I learned from Mark Goodson that for compositions and things like this, it's nice to use a good icon like this one here with a different color so you can see it when it comes to picking the composition. So if I go back to pages now, home, and then I click on compositions in the list, I can see what's available for me to choose. I can tick that, submit, and save, and that should have actually selected that. and for some reason, whether we have a bug or not, I'm not sure. Oh no, it's just that we don't have any properties on it. That was lucky. So if we go back to basic content controls, and let's just put in so a new tab called content, and put the name of the tab in there, and then we add a property, and we call this title, and then in the description we say enter a title, and then in this bit here we'll choose an editor. So we can either create a new editor or we can use an existing, well, we just want to reuse the text string editor. So click on that, and then we could make it mandatory if we wanted to, but we don't need to. We're just putting a text string in. Click on submit and then save. So we now have that on the basic content controls, and because the home page uses this composition, it's actually inherited it in and brought it through for us. So if we were to go to the content section now and click on the three dots next to content, or right click on content, we could then create an item under content and choose home, and we'll put the name in as home, and then we now have a title. So the title is Hello World. And then down here in the menu, if I just move myself out of the way. So down here in the menu, we have these options here. We've got save and publish, schedule, so it can be published at a later date, and publish with descendants. So maybe you have a particular section of the content tree that you want to publish all together. You do that like that. And then you've got this option here of just to save. So come back over. So with this, we just want to save and publish. Now let's have a look at the home page and see what's happened. I've not used the template yet, so we should see an error. So page not found. There isn't a template that exists to render this document. So in order to do that, we need to go to settings again. We need to go to templates, and we want to create one. Now what I like to do is create a master template for the site, and then your other pages underneath that and will inherit from that. So I'm going to call this one master first of all, and then press save, and then under that I will create another one called home. Click on home there. So we've got home, and now what I want to do is I want to just show this property. So if I do at model, and then what do we call it? We called it the title, model.title. If we choose save and then we refresh the page, it's not worked. So let's have a look at that. Oh, the reason why it won't have shown is because we haven't actually tied the home document type to that template. So we need to go to templates. So we click on the pages, home, templates, choose default template, and we'll choose home. Click on save. Then we'll go back to the content tree, click on home, and then we'll choose in here, we'll go to info, and then choose the home template, and then save and publish. Now if we go back to here and refresh the page, we have the error. Our published content does not contain a definition for title. So what we can do, this might be something to do with models builder. So we might need to rebuild the models. So if we go to settings and then click on the settings part up here, we get the option to go to models builder. If we reload this, so it's saying models builder is enabled, the API is neither installed, pure live models are enabled. So by default, the model should have updated and we should have been able to use that. But what I can do is I can edit the template. So if we go to settings, go to templates master, and then open out master and go to home, what we can do is we can do model.value and then open brackets and then just do title. So this needs to match the alias of the property that we created, and I'll show you what the alias is. So if we go back to basic content controls, this is the alias here. So it needed to match that. And before we were using just model.title. That should have worked, and it hasn't yet. So we'll click on save, and we'll just see what happens here. So if we refresh this, the render body method hasn't been right. So that's the next step. On the template for master, we needed to do @render body. This is an MVC thing, so if we click on save there, because the home page inherits from master, it needs to pass that through, and it needs to say render what's underneath me. So if we refresh now, we've got hello world. Now I've realized where I was going wrong on the other part as well, and these things are left in on purpose, because if you're a newcomer to Umbraco, you might make these sort of mistakes that I'm making here and not know how to solve them, because when you watch the video everything went perfectly. So I like to leave these sorts of things in. So where I went wrong is on the home one, I needed to just tell it to use the home models builder model. So it inherits from Umbraco web MVC, Umbraco view page, and then home. So we do that in the angled brackets there. And then I also need to tell it to be aware of the models builder namespace. So if we go into this one here, modelsgenerator.cs, we can see this file where it's generated our model based on the home node that we created. And we don't need to worry about how it does this. We just need to be aware of that it is doing it and what we can use from it. So we have a namespace here of umbraco.web.publishModels. So we need to use that. This is the class which is home, so it's generated a home model for us. And on this we have a title, so that's where we can do model.title, and it's using this, getting the value for us. So that's the alias as well. So if we go back to here and we say @using, so we need the using statement, and then we enter in the namespace that we had up here, which was umbraco.web.publishModels. There we go, using umbraco.web.publishModels, and then the home model there. We could do it like this, where you don't have to do a using. You could just say that and then dot home, and then remove the using. And if we press save, and then if we do model.title, you'll see that that's what I'm trying to say, is that the model we're using is home. That model got generated automatically in here. That's that one there. And then we're saying we want to display the title. So let's just see if that works. So we should again see hello world. So that's the really basic hello world into setting up your Umbraco website, getting it installed, getting to the point where you can do a hello world, and then this is it. This is the beginning now. So from this we will move on. In the end we will end up with a website looking similar to this, but not exactly like this. This one called Clean Starter Kit that I created. So basically I've built a starter kit for you that you could, if you wanted to, you could cheat and just use the starter kit. But essentially we're going to have a website that will look like this. It's got different pages, different templates, different layouts, a contact form, that we'll get a working contact form going, we'll have a working search and things like that. So that's where we'll progress on to. But first of all, we just wanted to do the hello world today, get you installed and set up, and hello world. What I'm going to do now is just check this into source control. So I thought I'd just show you as I'm doing this, in case you're using source control as well, so that you can see what files I'll check in and what I won't into source control. So I like to use Visual Studio connected to Git. There's an extension for it. I think it's Tools, Extensions and Updates, and then I think I've got, yeah, there it is, GitHub extension for Visual Studio. That's the one I use. So whilst I'm in here, what I can do is I've got all the changes that I want to say that I want to commit or I want to ignore. So in here, I've got a .vs, so that's just Visual Studio related things. I always right click and I ignore these local items. I don't need them. Then in here, I've got in my changes, I've got these ones here. So in app data, I don't need any of these. I don't need any of this checked in. This all gets generated. So I can ignore these local items as well. I will leave the app plugins models builder in there. In the bin, I can ignore these local items as well. Don't need anything that goes in the bin folder because that all gets generated. I do need everything from the config. For some reason it's regenerated the models files. I'll just close them. We've got the media folder. Leave that. We'll let that be checked in for now. But later down the line, we won't want to check in any of those when we come to deploy, things like that. We don't want to push the media up because the media might be different in the different environments. Got the object OBJ folder. So I'm going to ignore these local items as well. And then the main one here, Umbraco, I'm going to ignore this as well. And the reason is because it's using the NuGet, it will, if it detects that that folder isn't there anymore, it will just restore it and download it for us anyway. So we don't need to keep it checked into source control. Then we have the views folder, so we'll keep that. And the packages folder as well, we don't want to keep that. That is pretty similar again. So it uses the packages.config file to work out what packages it needs to have. If it doesn't have them on disk, it will re-download them anyway. So you don't need to check that into source control. Ignore these local items. So it's a lot smaller now. So instead of 6,000 items, it's all of these. So we can just right click and stage on that to add all of these. And then one other thing that I'm going to do as well is I'm just going to go to Solution Explorer and I'm just going to include the files that I want to include in the solution. So if I open this out, so we created some new views and things like that. So I'm going to right click and include in project, right click, include in project. For now, that's enough. So I'll save all. That will update the project file. So this is it. We've got all of these files that we're going to check in, and I'll right click and stage that as well, so that can go in with the changes. So I'm just going to just say my initial setup of Umbraco. Commit that, and then I'll push that up to GitHub. Now the thing is, this isn't about teaching you how to do this part of things, but what this does is it puts it into a GitHub project for us. So if you did want to follow along, you'd be able to follow along at that GitHub URL. So that would be github.com/prj/umbraco-v8-tutorial. And I think that is a private one at the moment. So what I will do is I will go on and I'll make it public. And then when you're watching the video, it will be a public tutorial. I'll make sure the correct link is in the show notes as well, so you can get to that. So if you did want to cheat and just download the code that I did, you can do. And I'll just keep updating it. So you might find that later down the line, when you're watching this, it's moved on a lot more. But at least it'll be a place for that source code to be. So I hope you've enjoyed watching the video. If you did enjoy it and you're ready for the next one as well, please click on like. If you want to be updated for when the new episodes are coming out, then please subscribe to my channel, and you can click on bell notifications as well. If you do want to show your appreciation, it's totally up to you. You don't have to, but you could go to codeshare.co.uk/coffee, and on there you get the option. If you want to, you could buy me a coffee, but as I say, that's up to you. But that just uses PayPal if you did. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode, where we go further with our Hello World example. I'll show you how to use some other different types like drop downs and text areas and rich text and things like that. So we'll just get some idea of those basics. And then we'll start, after that one, we'll start working towards actually building the website that we are here to build in the tutorial. All right, thanks for watching. See you on the next episode. Bye.